Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you as always from the sunny south of Germany. Today is Friday, it's the 20th of September 2019, and I just wanted to pop in very quickly to give you a little bit of an update on what I'm knitting on, what I'm working on. So this is going to be probably a shorter version of the podcast. If you're watching for the very first time, this is a knitting podcast, knitting and sometimes spinning and generally all the things that are somehow yarn related. Last week I had a huge episode which was basically just filled with Norway and Oslo stories and yarn and all these things. So today I think we're going to keep it much shorter. For one, we don't have any acquisitions, which thank goodness. And also I just wanted to talk more about what I'm actually working on, give you some insights into that. So I hope that you will enjoy that. I have decided to reintroduce myself again for the reason that, well, we've had a couple of new viewers, which is exciting. So hi, if you're a new viewer. And maybe for those of you who've been watching for a while but don't watch every episode. Like I said, my name is Julia. I live here in Germany. I live in Munich, which is in the very south of Germany, with my husband, which still sounds crazy to call him my husband. I'm still not used to that. In fact, I introduce myself with the wrong name at work all the time, and it's really embarrassing after 6 months to be like, hey, my name is this. Oh, actually, well, wait, no, it actually isn't. It actually changed. It's now this, and I'm stupid, and let's move on. That's how it goes. Anyhow, so it's just the two of us. I do obviously like knitting. Duh. I also like coffee. My second biggest passion in life besides knitting is coffee, closely followed by spinning. So essentially the story is I learned how to knit from my grandma when I was a child. Then kind of forgot about it, and then a couple of years ago, I think about 7-ish years ago, decided to crochet a couple of hats because that was all the rage. And then randomly, while on a holiday in Thailand and actually breaking up with someone, decided I will come home to Germany and learn how to knit socks. And so I did. My grandma showed me, and I knit socks for a long time, which I still think knitting socks is a great way to learn a lot of different knitting techniques. So that was definitely useful. For about at least a year, I think I had no real interest besides just knitting socks. And well, that has moved on now. And so I knit all the things. I still have a love for socks. I'm also very much into garment knitting at the moment. I like colorwork knitting. There's a fly in my room. I had a phase where I did a lot of brioche, but just lately, yes, my focus has definitely been on garments, on colorwork garments, on the more woolly and rustic yarns, and I guess hand in hand with that also spinning. I picked up my spinning by starting with a drop spindle, which you will know if you've watched the very first beginnings of my podcast, which I wouldn't recommend because that was terrible. And now I've had my spinning wheel for 3.5 years. Lately also changed to an e-spinner, and I just do really enjoy spinning as well. I dabbled into sewing, didn't like it. I like the idea of sewing, I just don't like actually sewing. I don't really crochet anymore besides like crochet blankets, but that is something that I would like to learn at some point. And yeah, besides all the crazy yarny things, believe it or not, I actually work full-time. So that's another thing that has somehow needs to fit into the day. And yeah, here we are. All right, I think that's enough about me. The sun is doing funny things because I'm recording after work in the late afternoon, and well, that's how it is, but we will just move on. So I have a finished object. I wanted to have 2 finished objects, but I just didn't manage. But the one finished object that I have is, of course, a pair of socks. I think I proudly announced that I wanted to have them done last episode, and so I did. So these are my travel socks because they have both traveled with me to the south of France and have been knitted at various French beautiful places. And then they also traveled with me to Oslo, to the Oslo Strict Festival. So yeah, here they are. I have two of them, but sock blockers and stuff. What the yarn is essentially, it's a commercial yarn, so it goes perfectly within our One Ball with Love knit along, which is a very informal knit along to knit with commercial sock yarns. This is Regia Perfect, which is one of their self-strapping, self-patterning colorways. It's the Neon Rainbow colorway, which is number 1736. And I knit a pair of matching socks. And maybe you can tell I did a 2x2, and I didn't. I did a 3x1 rib throughout the leg of the sock. And then just popped in an afterthought heel because I didn't want to mess up the stripe sequence. And there we have it. They are both done. I really like them. Those are going to be for me. And as for most of my socks, I knit those on a US size 1, 2.25 millimeter needles over 64 stitches. So very happy to have these done. I also kind of wanted to have another pair of socks done because I'm just not really into socks right now, and just wait a week and I'll be totally back into it. But I'm just kind of trying to finish all my socks, and so I'm also working on these, which are also, I guess, part of the One Ball with Love knit along, and they also traveled with me to a couple of places. But this is actually still a work in progress, so I can show you. This is where I am on the second sock, so I have about, well, half of the foot to go, really. This yarn is also a really fun one. It is a West Yorkshire Spinners in, is it the Blue Tit colorway? I think it is. It doesn't say it on the ball band, but I think it is colorway number, is it 06? There's a couple of numbers on here, and I am not sure which one is the correct one, but you get the idea. West Yorkshire Spinners, and they have a couple of colorways, but you can certainly find this one if you look for it. And these will be for my father-in-law. So I am doing a pair of vanilla latte socks for him. Not that it's showing up in the sock, but more because it's a little bit more stretchy. So I think it's good for gifting socks, and also it just makes it a little bit more fun to knit. So I didn't really put it in for the optics of it, just to put something in the sock and not have to just knit plain vanilla all around. For these I did a Fishlips Kiss heel, and it looks kind of loose because my father-in-law has slightly bigger feet, so these socks are just slightly too big for the sock blocker, but I think they will be perfect on him because whatever socks are just a tiny bit too big for me will be perfect for him. So I know that he will love them. He is one of the most just grateful recipients of my knitting, and I just love knitting for him. So yeah, that is that. Those are my two sock projects, and we've already moved into works in progress, so we'll just keep going. One project that I haven't shown you in a while is my Cuyler Shawl. So let's talk about the yarn first. And I'm sorry about the crazy lighting. There's just nothing I can do. I have closed the blinds, but they don't close perfectly, so you get these really fun sort of like lines of light coming in. And I'm getting sidetracked, but really that shouldn't matter. Also, I was already dressed up for work, so I was like, let's just keep going. The one time I actually look like I'm somewhat put together, and no, please don't ruin that for me. Just let me believe that. Anyways, I'm just waffling on today, you guys. And also I can't find my yarn label, but this beautiful yarn, this is yarn by Garthenor, which is a British brand, or yeah, I guess brand of yarn. And this is their number 1, which is a single ply Shetland yarn. And no, I'm not trying to talk to you, Siri. I'm talking to my yarn. Um, anyways, so my work phone just activated itself. All right. This is the Muscat colorway, and it's just a beautiful natural colored yarn. I talked about Garthenor last week because I got some of the yarn at the Oslo Strikke Festival, and no, I didn't cast it on already. This is just a different colorway, which is quite similar to the one that I bought. I have 100. I used to have 150 grams or 3 skeins of this yarn, and guess what? My shawl is huge already, and I haven't even finished my first skein. So I'm going to have tons and tons and tons left over from this, which maybe I can combine with my other Garthenor single ply yarn. I'm thinking about it. I need to put the skeins next to each other and see if that's a good idea or if it's a terrible idea, but it could be cool. Anyways, what I'm knitting with it is the Cuyler Shawl, and I believe that's a pattern by Heidi Kirrmaier. If not, I will try to correct myself. And it's essentially a triangular shawl with a lot of lace. And then also now I'm just increasing in a stockinette portion. So you have all this lace, which just keeps going. It's super simple and I really enjoy knitting it actually. And now I'm just increasing in stockinette. And this thing will be huge. I saw a version of this knit up in the exact same yarn and colorway in a Munich yarn store called Rauwerk, and it was massive and it was amazing, and that's exactly what I want. The original shawl was actually knit with a different Garthenor yarn. Don't ask me which one, but it was one that had I think it was a bit thicker, so it would probably go faster, but I do think this is going to be amazing, and I can't wait to have this done for fall, which is around the corner, which is amazing. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. Of course, only if you're in the northern hemisphere. Otherwise, I'm sorry, if you're in Australia, New Zealand, all of those places, I feel you. It must be really annoying to have everyone waffling on about fall when you're going into spring, but sorry about that. Anyways, so that is my Cuyler shawl. Progress is kind of slow because there are quite a few stitches now on the needles, but this is where I was last time I showed it to you, so I am making progress, and I'm just really enjoying this knit. It's a very enjoyable piece to knit on, and I'm really enjoying the yarn, which it's a Shetland yarn, but being a single ply, it is also very soft. So I do enjoy sort of like the way that it looks and feels a little bit rustic, but at the same time, it's actually quite wearable and soft and lacy, and yeah, I really like it. And I'm knitting that on 3.5 millimeter US size 4 needles in case you're interested in that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that is that. Why did I buy 3 skeins of it? I'm not sure. Moving on. What should we talk about first? Let's talk about my shawl project first, another shawl project. What happened to me? I used to not knit many shawls, and right now I'm knitting all the shawls. I'm still working on my eyeball shawl, which is of course a pattern by Stephen West. I talked about it in detail last week, so I'm not going to talk about it too much this week. But and still I don't know the anatomy of an eye in English, so I'm probably going to be using the wrong words to describe these different parts of the eye. Forgive me. The lighting is annoying me now. So last week I already showed you I had done the big circular knitting part, which was the main part of the eye and the iris. And now I'm working on the white parts of the eye, and this is just scrunched up on the needle, so I'm not going to be able to show it to you very well, and I'm trying not to drop stitches. But essentially now I'm just working garter stitch back and forth while picking up stitches to knit first one part of the eye, and then I'm going to do the same on the other part, and then all that's left to do is a brioche border. So yeah, I've just been doing a lot of back and forth garter stitch with increasing, and it's very hard to show you guys, but I think it's going to turn out really well. Let's call you back later. So that's where we are with that. I'm waiting in the mail for a bigger cable for or cord for my needles, and then this will be much easier to handle and show. But that's where we are, and I feel like I did get quite a bit of knitting done on this, which is great. The yarn that I'm using for this is the Pickles yarn that I got in Oslo. Can you see how much I'm actually knitting with the yarn that I got? I'm really proud of myself for that. And I got this specifically for this project. This is Pickles Merino Tweed. And the colorways are listed on my project pages on Ravelry. Confusingly enough, Pickles, they both have English and Norwegian names for all of the colorways. So if you look on their website, you will probably find the right ones if you're even interested in that. Again, not sponsored. I'm just trying to give you all the information because I know that someone will ask. And I should have said in the beginning, I don't do show notes. Very sorry about that. It's just not something that I can handle time-wise with the podcast. But I do keep pretty good show notes on project pages on my projects on Ravelry. So I will always link that right underneath the video. And I figure, I mean, that's the most important part of this podcast. It shouldn't be showing off things and showing off yarns and acquisitions, but it should be the projects. So I try to be quite good about keeping proper pages on Ravelry. So yeah, that is my shawl project number 2. And I will try to fit that into the bag later. All right, let's hope that this is better. The light keeps changing and I have a lot of trees in front of my windows, so things and light is going all over the place. But I did cast on something very exciting, and I'm just all over it, and I'm all excited, and I can't even talk English anymore because I'm just thinking about yarn. And so this is another yarn that I bought in Oslo, talked about at length last week. This is Hillesvåg Solje, and I hope I pronounced that right. Maybe it's Solje, I'm not sure. This is the yarn that I got, and it's colorway 2136 for those of you who are interested. It's a really difficult color to show because it just looks kind of like brownish gray, but then it has these sort of like almost mauve kind of undertones, which you're just going to look at me and be like, it's gray. But it's not just gray, it just really depends on the light. But it's a really pretty colorway, and again, I bought this with a purpose, and that purpose was to knit the Earnest Cardigan, which is a pattern by Joji Locatelli that I've been wanting to knit in my quest to knit more cable things this year. And I had already signed up with that project for the Joji Fall Cow. I signed up for 2 cardigans and 1 pair of socks, which is probably crazy and isn't going to happen, but at least I cast on one of them. So this is the swatch that I did with a couple of different needle sizes, and I couldn't get gauge because my gauge is always too big. But I think I'm making it work, so I just cast on, and for a while I wasn't sure if the yarn choice was right, but now I'm just so excited about this. And one thing I'm not excited about is the lighting, again. Anyways, so this is a top-down cardigan with a knitted on border and collar, I guess. So what you do is you basically knit this long strip of collar, or it's just a long strip of knitting with cables, and then eventually I join it into what will be the cardigan. So I started with this part, knitted one half this way, then picked up the stitches, knit one way half the other way, and then I went all around, and I'm not giving anything away. I think this is just basic garment construction, and eventually this will be a cardigan with a collar. So I hope you get the idea. How cool is that? I mean, how amazing is this design with these cables? I just love this. This is amazing, and it's not at all to do with my skills of knitting, but just cables, rustic yarn, awesome design by Joji Locatelli, if I haven't mentioned. This makes me so happy. So I'm so excited about this project, and I've been knitting on it pretty much non-stop. Yeah, I didn't used to be a big friend of cables. I've always liked the look of cables, but I've never really enjoyed cabling. But since I've learned a lot about knitting on cables without a cable needle, so I have actually done this entire thing without a cable needle. And if you don't know how to do that, there's plenty of videos on YouTube. If you just Google it, look it up. So as you can see, there's this beautiful color motif, and then the main body of the sweater is going to be this sort of textured pattern. I don't want to give too much away. And the only modification that I made, but I'm not the first one to make it, is I am doing the sleeves, which are here. It's all kind of bunched up right now. I'm going to be doing those in stockinette. But other than that, I'm following the pattern, and as you can see, there's also a cable running down the back of the sweater or the cardigan, and I think this is just going to be amazing. So like I said, I was a little bit worried that this yarn was too busy because it's a natural colored yarn, but it has quite a bit of color variation in it. It's a bit of a rustic yarn, it has a bit of a sheen, so it's not the most perfect yarn to knit cables in, but I think it's actually looking really, really great, and I really, really like it. So that's where we are with that. Totally addicted to it. I'm looking forward to being able to at some point separate the sleeves, and then it'll be a little bit faster. And I thought about knitting it in the round and steeking it, but I think I'm just going to be knitting it flat because most of the flat knitting is going to be this textured stitch with knits and purls anyways, so steeking it wouldn't really help that much. Yeah, so that's where we are with that. Incredibly excited about that. I'm also very happy to be using the yarn that I bought already and to be using it with a purpose that I had in mind. I'm very happy that it's working out. I just hope that sizing will work because I am sized down according to my swatch and maths and all of that, and we will just all hope for the best. But if it does, I think it'll be a cardigan that I wear all the time, and that will probably last me for years and years and years. And I'm also considering this part of the practical, which is hosted by Kristen of Wool and Vine, to knit things that are somewhat practical and gray-ish cardigan. I think I'm going to be wearing this a ton. It's going to go with a ton of things that I have already in my wardrobe. So yes, I am very excited about that. So you guys, that is it in terms of my works in progress that I'm showing you today. I think I have one more work in progress which I'm not really working on. I also haven't really worked on my spinning, so there's nothing to report on that front. And miraculously, and also very much needed, that wasn't a sentence, but I also don't have any stashed acquisitions to show you guys. So I think that's pretty much it in terms of content for today. Is there anything I wanted to mention? I don't think so. Yes, I am one of those persons who never writes show notes, so I never know what I'm talking about, but it works out. So that is it for the knitting content, and I don't think I have much else in terms of what's been happening. Essentially, it's been like work and knit and sleep and repeat, which is fine, and now I'm just very happy to have the weekend nearing. I wasn't really planning on recording today, but it just kind of worked out. So I'm doing a couple of things with friends, but I'm also very much planning to just hang out, do some knitting. I really want to finish those socks by West Yorkshire Spinners, and then maybe even consider casting on another project for my Hohi Fall Cow, or maybe just working on things that need to be finished. So yeah, that is pretty much it. I will be back with another episode next week, and until then, thank you so much for watching. Happy knitting, and I will see you very soon. Bye!